Right, today we're going to get into some rather disturbing news. We're going to get into some of the forward deployments of the Russian military up along the NATO border. But before we get into some of that, we're going to get into who's going to be giving this presentation today. Um, I'll start with myself. Johnny Anderson. I am a criminal investigator by trade, and I just happen to take an interest in what you're going to see in today's presentation, along with Russian military history and the military history of the collective West. And my whole prerogative throughout my entire adult life has been to get the right information to the right people so that the right decisions are made. And hopefully, by today's presentation, you're going to see just that. So that is me. Jeff?
Yes, I'm Jeff Nyquist. I'm educated as a political scientist. I do journalism commentary on the world events and grand strategy, and I'm interested in operational art of war. So I'm very much interested in these maps that Mr. Lee Wheelbarger has put together on Russia.
And my name
And
is
Lee.
Lee Wilbarger. I am the owner of KLW World News. I'm the former senior technologist for the U.S. Army, the inventor of telemedicine, the PVS 14, and a variety of other technologies. And I now track all Russian military forces throughout Russia and the world, as well as I keep up with the Ukraine war and advancements in technology from adversarial countries to the United States.
Right. So let's begin in the top left. We're going to work east to west here. We're going to start up in Kaliningrad. We're going to move west from there. And one of the things that you had noticed up here, Lee, was the buildup of anti-air bases, most notably the S-400 missile facilities. So let's start up there with some of the deployments that they've got and what that means.
All right, so the first military base that we've got S-400s on is this one here in the eastern part of Kaliningrad. And it has two S-400 sites at it. There is one on the northeast corner of the airbase with the UHF radar. Actually, there's two at this end. And then at the southwestern corner, there is another S-400 site. This airbase has been pretty busy here lately, bringing IL-76s in, as well as fighter jets. And they fly into the area, they turn off their transponder, land. They're here for an extended period of time, and then they take off again and turn the transponder back on and go back to Moscow. But that is not the only S-400 site in Kaliningrad. There is a good collection of S-400s. If we come here to the southwestern corner of Kaliningrad, we have another S-400 site down here. This has a long-range radar that you can see here. It has a microwave transmitter here and has these large radar domes for radars inside. Has a good collection of S-400 equipment. If we move to the north, there is another S-400 here along the spit. And then if we continue to move north from it, there is another S-400 site here next to where the Russians have built this huge bunker system in western Kaliningrad, northwestern Kaliningrad. And if you want an example of how big these bunkers are, you can look and see these are S-400s on tractor trailers parked outside just in front of one of these bunkers. This was already a bunker facility previously, and they have quadrupled the size of it. Now being reported that this is going to be storage for nuclear weapons, and this building here appears to be built to bring missiles in by rail and store everything in here before it is taken out to each one of the bunkers. If we continue to move to the northwest, we find yet another S-400 site here. And then they have a bunch of military equipment all over uh, the country as well. And then this is an air defense, coastal missile defense system here. So those are the S-400s just in Kaliningrad. Now, if you move down to Belarus, you will find one here just 3.5 miles from the Polish border. This site they've been working on for years, and we have it modeled in 3D. We have a long range HF over the horizon radar here. We have multiple independent radars here. This appears to be an Iskander launcher there. We have more radars here, radar here, and yet another radar here. And what we have seen in our latest satellite imagery, in this imagery, only half of the launchers are erect. In the new imagery we just received a few days ago, all of these launchers are erect with the exception of 3. So more than 75% are fully erect. In addition to that, there is another S400 site here to the south. And here is an S400 manufacturing facility. And this facility has all been built in the last few years. If we move to the south from here and come down to Brest, near the large training area down here, many of you who have seen my broadcast have seen this training area where they have a facility capable of dunking vehicles to make sure that they float and their propulsion system works. Again, this is just 3.5 miles from Poland, and just to the north of Brest, they have yet another S400 site, which you can clearly see here. The disturbing part of this image is not only the fact that there's yet another S400 site on the border, but the fact of this vehicle here, which looks to be an RS-27. Jeff, you got anything you want to add? Johnny?
Jeff? Okay, I'm not sure where Jeff is. But yes, when I saw this site last night, I immediately noticed that there was one vehicle here that did not belong, and it was clearly the SS-22 that was there. Um, excuse me, the SS-27. I apologize. But that was the first thing that I saw, and I called you first thing this morning, Lee, when I saw that, or I sent you a message and I said that vehicle's not supposed to be there. I called Jeff last night and realized what was there, and being that close to the border, and with all of the deployments that are there, the S-400s that are deployed now, that is indicative of a forward deployment, and they're expecting forward movement.
And that SS-27 launcher, to be that close to the border, it's the contemplation here is a low trajectory use of that to strike something fairly nearby. Airfields, air defenses, concentrations of troops, maybe the city of Warsaw. I don't know the flight time. You guys might 3 minutes, very short flight time. This is the most sophisticated ICBM ever made. It has in-flight maneuvering capabilities. It's a tremendous weapon, and that is a nuclear weapon, and that is not in Russia. That is in Belarus, and we know that there were some nuclear deployments to Belarus, but not this. The world wasn't told about this.
And the positioning of that is what was most alarming to me. The position from this across from the Polish border is around 8.5 kilometers, and the position that SS-27 is laying east-west. So for those that don't know, that can't see the larger map, directly east, or excuse me, directly west of this position, 180 kilometers, is the city of Warsaw. So you can give a line there, yeah,
Or 116 miles.
or 116 miles. So you can see that you can clearly see the distance. The other aspect that we need to look at is the plan that they're looking to take over the Savaki Gap. Now, from what we've heard in the last few days, the German Ministry of Defense expects the Russians to possibly make a move on the Baltic states in the next 45 days. In doing so, they would also have to move in that direction across the Savaki Gap. Lee, you ran a simulation as to how long it would take them to take the Savaki Gap,
Yeah. So
and with the assets they have. Yeah, go ahead.
what we did was we have a 3D flight simulator, and we have all of the different military aircraft from countries around the world, including Russian Mi-35s and Mi-24s. And so what we did was we simulated an attack of Mi-35s, Mi-24s, Mi-17s, and Mi-26s to fly troops and cut the Suwalki Gap, excuse me. And so for us to fly from the southeastern end of the Suwalki Gap in to be able to take the main highways that you'll see going north and south here, as well as taking the main rail line, only took us 13 and a half minutes. So if you've got attack helicopters flying in and they're accompanied by helicopters full of troops to come in and close those main roads, only took us less than 13 minutes.
And basically, you cut off the three NATO countries of the Baltic states, and you also cut off their electricity coming in from the rest of NATO, and you've cut them off from overland supply. So you've basically isolated those three small countries, and they become easy pickings from that point on, don't they?
Yes, and this is the exact same area that the president of Belarus met with his military commanders, and his military commanders said they were going to take the northeast part of Poland when they took the Suwalki Gap, and their troops are already there and have been training in the area. And there's also a unit of surveillance vehicles already deployed along the border here.
The number of troops that you say that are already there, you have been doing some number crunching as to how many troops they're able to train and crank out each week.
Yes. And so we think that there are already close to 400,000 troops ready to go, not including Belarusian troops. These are just what they have been bringing through, and we believe that they are kicking out somewhere around 10,000 troops per week with all of the different training areas all over Belarus.
And they're bringing in these troops to be trained. They're bringing in the men from all over the world, aren't they?
Yes, sir. And then here,
One other,
and speaking of the training areas, here's one of
yeah.
them right
Show
here.
some of the training areas. Yeah.
So here's one of the training areas right here. And you can see they have built up, these are underground bunkers for ammunition and so on and so forth for this facility. There's a lot of different underground bunkers here as well as above ground storage buildings. They have so many troops. This used to be all grass, and there's not a blade of grass in there at all now. All of these roads, they have been going through and building new roadways inside of the facility. They've got this new paved road that goes the entire length. They've built all kinds of short ranges here. They also have moving target ranges on tracks. So this is basically a revetment with a train track behind it, and it has a train car with a pole sticking up and a target on it. It's the same as the U.S. uses at Fort Knox and Fort Benning and other places. And so this train car moves back and forth along this section of track. They fire at it. The target is above the revetment, and the facility is full of them. Here's another track. There's a track. Here's a track. There's a track. Here's a track. There's a track. Here's another track. There's like 40 of these. Another track, another track, another track. Same thing here. Also up here, we've got more tracks here, more tracks here, more tracks here. And then they have been building these helipads. And these helipads, this is not for an Mi-8 or an Mi-17. These are Mi-26 helipads. Because if you land a regular helicopter in here, the rotor blades aren't even as big as the circle in the middle.
So
And
these are transport helicopters for
yes,
moving
sir.
supplies and troops.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes.
And the Mi-26, the Russians have enough Mi-26s to have 5,800 troops airborne just in Mi-26s at one time. and here's two more of those helipads. So there's 6 helipads at this location. And what we're seeing is, as they're doing these training areas like this, they've got this one here in the northern part. When you get down here to the training area just south of Brest, you've got a drone runway here that's pointing straight Poland's 3.5 miles off the west end of this. You've got a helipad here. There is an Mi-26, just to give you an idea of how big they are. And then if you move over here, they have built 3 more helipads for Mi-26s over here. And then when you move down here to the south, they've got 2 more helipads for Mi-26s there. And again, here is the training area. Here's Poland. And you've got lots of troops here, and you can see that they've been very busy. As you can see, there's no grass. And they're moving more and more vehicles. And they also have a vehicle operator school here for going across ditches and trenches, things of that nature. So this is a huge facility that's been very, very busy. As you can see, there is not a blade of grass anywhere in here. That's how busy they are here. And this is just one of the training areas. Like, I have another map of Belarus, and there's now over 20 training areas in Belarus kicking out troops.
20. Um, so let's take a look at the rail yards. I was able to look at the fuel depot, the military fuel depot, that is a couple of kilometers northwest of Brest, and I was able to follow that line down. And what I was able to see was in that rail yard, on the north end of that rail yard, you know where I'm talking about. Um, you've got enough diesel fuel laying on those tracks. You have that there as well, yes. If you go west of there, and you go a little bit north, you'll see the line coming straight in from the outside of town. And it will be it'll be the line that's just across the Bug River. So where the bridge is,
All right, so here's the bridge.
yeah,
Here's the rail line bridge.
yes. If you follow that up and around to where it curves, you'll see all of the big white tanks on that line right there. You just crossed over it, just north.
Is it out of town, you're saying?
No, it's in town. I thought I had it up. I do apologize. Um, so you cross the bridge, and you'll see the border checkpoint. So the second bridge, that one there, yeah. If you follow that line up, follow that line up, and you'll see it curve around, and just to the right.
Yeah, okay.
So if you keep following that line around, and you'll see all those cars just to the right there, and just south.
Oh,
There you
wow.
go. Yep. If you
Okay.
count those, that's direct. These cars are the white tanks, the white tanker cars. Those are directly from that military fuel depot. And if you count them up, there's approximately 1.5 million gallons, or 7,500, 7,500,000 liters of diesel fuel in those cars.
In addition to the other rail yard full of diesel fuel.
In addition to the other rail yard, yes.
Now, this is enough to get, this is way enough to get 25 to, well, 30 divisions to Warsaw and beyond. You could get to Germany with this much fuel with the Russian army.
Yes, and it's just parked up, just sitting there.
And that's in addition to all of this.
That is in addition to all of that, yes, sir. So everything that's been there, plus the extra 1.5 million gallons that they've parked on the the northeast, or
And
excuse me, the northwestern side.
and that's the Brest rail yard, which is what? Just a few kilometers from the Polish border.
Yes, sir. It's, I think, 3.5 kilometers on the same rail. They don't even have to change the tracks.
Yeah. The bridge is the main N gauge or wide gauge bridge is right there.
They've
Yeah.
got two of them. They can cross both ways.
Yeah.
So they could cross in, as we were talking before we started, they can cross in before those bridges even get taken out. Shall we move up to Finland?
Yeah.
You
Let's
have the
take
air
a look.
bases and the buildups up there along the Finnish border. Yes, Lee.
Yes, sir. So if we go here to the north, we have Oleania. Now, when we started counting the aircraft at this facility, we started seeing a lot of Tu-160s. And as we were counting them, we found out that there's more Tu-160s than what the Russians actually claim that they have. So all of these revetments here, with the exception of 2 up here, are full, and 3 over here. But everything else is full of Tu-160s, and then this tarmac down here is full of Tu-160s. There are several Bear bombers here, as well as AN-12s. And there's a couple more Tu-160s down on this end with the Bear bombers. That's Olynya. If you go just 17 miles to the southwest of that, you come to this air base down here, and it is full of fighters and fighter bombers. So they are stacked up. All of these bunkers are full. And what we found on some of our satellite imagery, which was the most interesting part, is when you get down here to this set of bunkers right here, they have ultralights. They are two place. They're not paragliders with the parachute on it. They're actually gray colored ultralights. And so the wings are made out of fabric and fiberglass, and they're just strung together. And the body is made out of fiberglass, and they're two place. And we have seen video imagery of Russians, and they take a Russian pilot, and then they put like a Spetsnaz soldier in the back, and they are actually putting on a parachute, and each one of these ultralights, a soldier is parachuting out of. The interesting part about this is if you put enough fuel on it, you can get about 200 miles out of an ultralight if you're going just one way. You can bring these right over onto the border in pickup trucks or big trucks and launch them right off of a road in under 100 yards. And they can fly at a significant altitude up to about 12, 13,000 feet. And if you aid oxygen, you can go a little higher than that. Additionally, with the way that the exhaust pipes are, they're on the top. So is that you can't basically hear them at 13,000 feet or 10,000 feet. So they're small, they don't show up on radar, and there is a unit of them at this air base here. If you move further to the south, they have put in more radar installations along the border here. If you move down closer to St. Petersburg, this air base over here has over 60 fighter jets at this one facility. So we've got AN-12s, we've got a bunch of Mi-17s, we have underground bunkers, we've got fighter jets stacked up back here on the tarmac, more fighter jets here, and then here they are lined up side by side. And since this image was taken, there are more fighter jets in this area here. And then this bunker area up here to the north, all the bunkers are full, and they still have more fighter jets sitting outside. There's now 4 fighter jets over here on the scramble line. And then Down here to the south, these bunkers are being filled up with ammo and trucks. And so we've got all of this mapped out in one of our 3D maps.
And the amount of some of these other bases that you've been able to track inside of Russia, some of these other air bases, the amount of fuel depots that they're putting in at these air bases,
Hmm.
the underground facilities that they're putting in, the big what'd you say, 1.5 million gallon storage tanks they're
Yeah,
putting in,
1 million. Each
one
storage tank
million
is made. They're 65 feet tall and 50 feet wide, or excuse me, 68 feet tall and 50 feet wide. A
for
million
those.
gallons.
Yeah, for those that are unaware, I was able to show some of the footage that you're showing here to a friend of mine who is a British defense contractor, and he was shocked at just seeing the massive buildups on these airfields. He informed me, and I was completely unaware of this. He informed me that just two of these airfields, two of them, possess more aircraft than the whole of the Royal Air Force. Just to put that into perspective for people. And this, I was actually going to tell you to go back to the middle of Kalin. This is the one in the middle of Kaliningrad. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
This is the secret air
Yeah.
base that they said wasn't an air base anymore. They tore the whole place up, said it wasn't going to be an air base, and then turned around and spent hundreds of millions of dollars to build this rail line coming in with this fuel. And we're estimating that there's over 4 million gallons of fuel just on this one airfield because you've got distributed fuel here. Each one of these is a million gallons. So there's 3 million gallons there distributed here. Excuse me, two more fuel tanks there, plus distributed fuel over here. This is the largest bunker at this airfield, and then they have two more bunkers over here, um, right here, uh, right here. There's bunkers here, right here. There's two more right here, and then these are Mi-35s fuselages, and these are Mi-17 or Mi-8 hip, and then there's more fighter jets back here. And by the way, I have a new image here, and they're now stacked up like this. As you can see, you got two in a space and a few more in another space. This is now filled up all the way down, going two in a space, three in a space. So this is all filled up all the way down this line now as well. And we also have IL-76s going in here regularly. And if we move over to the northwest of this, we have an air base that was supposed to have been closed down, and this airbase is now seeing more traffic. Now, what they do here is this is a command and control facility here that they have been building over the last decade. Um, and this underground facility is so substantial, they have their own substation just to power this facility. So this is a massive buildup here. Also, this airfield up here that was abandoned is now full of the Ka-22 counter-rotating propeller marine helicopters, Mi-8s and Mi-17s, and this entire area over here is full of Mi-35s and Mi-24s. Now, we flew a surprise mission against Lithuania. And so what we did was also this building here, I forgot to mention, this building here has close to 100 trucks in it. When you start measuring the size of the building and you see how the trucks are lined up across the front of it, it's
Hmm.
close to 100 trucks just in here. That doesn't count all of the ones in the motor pools and so on and so forth out here. But what we did was we came over here and we flew a surprise mission to take the uh, the Carpathian, I think it's called the Carpathian Spit here. And so the border is right here. So what we did in our scenario is we lined up the trucks to the south here. We came in with Mi-35s and Mi-24s. We attacked the border crossing. We then came up and strafed this airfield to the north right here and strafed this and dropped munitions on it so as that this airfield was unusable to bring aircraft in. We then flew up to the north to where the main power line comes over to the Carpathian Spit, and that power line comes in right here. We blew up this transmission tower here for the power, and then we flew from there up to here, and we strafed the ferries on this side and on this side to prevent um, troops or equipment from being moved onto the Carpathian Spit. And then we continue on up and we strafed and attacked all of these fuel tanks in this area and landed helicopters right here on the beach. And we had that done in 15 minutes and 38 seconds. And that would close off this inland waterway here into Lithuania, the only real
And
port
that's
that
one
they
of their
have.
objectives is to isolate the Baltics because
Correct.
that has to be taken.
Yes. And then the other,
Jeff, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think when we see the deployment of naval aircraft that can reach the upper Baltics, they could cut off Riga and probably take Estonia very quickly so that there's no way that the NATO can get supplies by sea or air into the Baltic states, which means that they'll have to surrender within a period of days.
and Russia has also said that they are going to be building 50 more of their Tu 160, what they call White Swans, which is their M variant, made specifically for attacking marine targets. They have claimed they're going to build 50 more, and we can confirm that they have already built 32 of those 50.
And the significance is those are anti-ship aircraft that can prevent shipping from reaching the Baltic states.
Correct. And they are extremely long range and very fast. In fact, it's the largest supersonic bomber in the world.
Well, gentlemen, there is so much more that we could show here today, but I think that is the gist of it. Unless you have some more pressing things that you want to show in the last couple of minutes.
No, that's about that. That's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, there's a lot of equipment that is moved into this area. There's thousands and thousands of trucks, and it's one of the things I want to show here.
Yeah, the supply trucks
The
on
supply
either side
trucks,
of
there are
the border.
275 tractor trailers on this border here, and they are stacked up along the border, ready to go into Lithuania. And this is on the southern edge. This is just north of the military training area here. And when you look at the Suwalki Gap, this is the Suwalki Gap, and these trucks are lined up right here. If you go to the other end of the Suwalki Gap and you look at the road there, the tractor trailers again are lined up over here. There's over 150 tractor trailers that are lined up here, and these trucks have been lined up here for months. In fact, they go all the way back into this town. And then if you are looking at taking the Suwalki Gap, the way you would want to do that is you would want to take all the way across from here down to Belarus, and you would want to go up and take out up next to Vilnius, and then you would want to come back across here and then come back down to here. And this is the area that you would want to take and hold. Now, we have flown across coming from here with Mi-35s, coming from here with Mi-35s, taking every road and every airfield in this area. We've done that in 35 minutes. So we did this in 12 minutes and 38 seconds. We can take this entire piece right here in 35 minutes. And if you move this up to encompass this city up here, we can do it all in under 45 minutes. And so when you've got tractor trailers lined up here and you've got tractor trailers lined up down here, and then you come over here and you realize that there are tractor trailers here also lined up on the border. And these also go on for miles. In total, there's close to 500 trucks that are just sitting on the border ready to
Now,
go.
now, Lee, one person on a critic on Twitter on X said, "Oh, those trucks are just waiting to cross the border. He's got it wrong. They haven't been sitting there for months. What do you say to that person?
I have a video camera at the border crossing and the cab of the truck in the lead, and the ones behind it have been sitting there for 6 months.
Very good.
So if you're waiting in traffic for 6 months, you're unemployed.
Yes, that's true, especially if you're hauling any kind of cargo. Your
Correct.
employer's not gonna keep you. Well, gentlemen, the only estimate that I can make here just from what I can see, and I do not have a long-standing career in any kind of, military movements or in military intelligence work. I'm just looking at this from a simple investigative standpoint, and I've got countless hours looking at surveillance footage, and just putting 2 and 2 together. And I see no other reason, in my opinion, my professional opinion, and even my personal one, I see no other reason to have these deployments unless you're planning on moving sometime in the near future.
Yeah, that's correct, Johnny. These logistical preparations, especially the forward deployment of the fuel, um, this is meant for moving large ground forces. And so to have it this far forward indicates at some point the Russians are going to start moving APCs and tanks and self-propelled artillery into the area. And they could move it into this area fairly quickly if it's not already in bunkers nearby, if they haven't snuck it in and it's hidden somewhere. So this is a huge preparation.
And our estimate is that they could take and close off the main thoroughfares with helicopters from the west in Kaliningrad and helicopters in the east in Belarus, flying the helicopters up across the top here, coming in from both directions, that they could cut off every main thoroughfare in 45 minutes. They could do the exact same thing on the Suwalki Gap in under 15 minutes and have all of these trucks in to the country and have basically 400 trucks and tens of thousands of men cutting off all of these roads in under 4 hours. So that's every truck inside the country and reinforcements on every single one of these road crossings and rail crossings to close everything down within hours. And when you're talking about being able to have 5,800 troops on the ground in this territory in under 22 minutes, and that's just the first wave, and that's only with Mi-26s. That doesn't count Mi-17s, Mi-8s, Mi-24s, Mi-35s. Doesn't count any of the men on those, and doesn't count any men in any of the trucks that are coming across. That's just airborne forces, just by aircraft. So they could easily have 10,000 men in the country in under an hour.
And with the numbers they're pulling out of these training camps, that's entirely possible, and
Yes.
and they're doing it. So, gentlemen, I don't have anything else to add, unless the two of you do, and I think that should just about do it.
Now that's it. That's pretty good.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.